Welcome to my virtual classroom. Hope everybody is doing great. I am your English teacher today, and I'm very excited to deliver to you our first lesson. Before we begin, you might want to grab your pen and paper to note significant details from our discussion. Don't forget to have your learning module in English ready. Note and reserve your queries for our question and answer portion after the discussion. Allow me to present to you the learning competencies that we aim to hit bullseye at the end of the lesson. First, use the correct sounds of English. Next, use appropriate prosodic features of speech when delivering lines. We will be using the strategic, localized, and interactive intervention materials prepared by Ms. Marie Chris Marcus from Dalandanan National High School. Are you ready? Let's get the ball rolling and warm up with a mouth exercise. Do you pronounce these 5 words right? I have here 5 words you are probably pronouncing wrong. As I flash the word on the screen, I need you to read aloud. And let's see how well you pronounce these words. The first word means a liquid preparation containing detergent or soap for washing the hair. Now, try to read this word aloud. We often hear people say, "Can I buy shampoo?" But the correct pronunciation is shampoo. Like, "Oh, I like your hair. What brand is your shampoo?" The next word means a large, short-legged, chiefly aquatic African mammal. Now, will you read this word aloud? Uh-oh. Did I hear something like hippopotamus? The correct pronunciation of this is hippopotamus. Like, I saw a hippopotamus running wildly at the forest. Yes, hippopotamus. Why don't you try our next word? It means to recognize the quality, significance, or magnitude of something or someone. What do you say? If you think this is appreciate, then think again. It is supposed to be appreciate. For example, I appreciate your honesty. Our next word is very interesting. It means a small, thin suitcase used specially for carrying business papers. Now, will you read the word aloud? Oops! I heard you. Did you just say attaché? The dictionary tells us that it should be pronounced as attaché. For example, I forgot to bring my attaché case at work. Now try this next word. It means powdered ground roasted cacao beans from which a portion of the fat has been removed. What do you say? We usually hear people say cocoa or cocoa, but it should be pronounced as cocoa. For example, the recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of cocoa. Now, have you stretched those mouth muscles and articulators? If you want more, let me give you a bonus. This word has become a headache for most of us ever since we get addicted with Korean cuisine, like samgyeopsal, bulgogi, and many more. This word means pungent sauce whose ingredients include soy, vinegar, and garlic. Now, take a deep breath and give your best shot on this word. What do you say? Some may read this as Worcestershire or Worcestershire. But how do we really pronounce this word? The dictionary says it should be Worcestershire. I understand how you feel. Sometimes it will really be very frustrating if we don't sound right. And in worst cases, it can be very embarrassing. But why does it happen? How can we improve pronouncing the words? And why is it important to pronounce the words right when communicating? Today, we will answer those questions as we discuss our lesson, The Sound of English, Prosodic Features. So, worry no more because our official hashtags for today are Don't Stress on Stress, Game Up Tones, and Be Positive. So, we will just have lots of fun for today's lesson. Let's start with knowing what prosody is. Prosody is the stress and intonation patterns of an utterance. In this definition, we have two key words, stress and intonation. Let's get to know this one word at a time. Let us discuss first what word stress is. And as we go through the discussion, let's keep it fun and always remember our hashtag, Don't Stress on Stress. Word stress is a relative emphasis or prominence given to a certain syllable in a word or to a certain word in a phrase or sentence. For you to better understand this, let us take a look at some examples. The word photograph has three syllables. Pho, to, graph. The emphasis or stress is given on the first syllable, so we pronounce this as photograph. Now, compare this to our second example. The next word has four syllables, and the stress is given to the second syllable this time. So it is pronounced as photographer. Now, the third word also has four syllables, but this time, the stress is on the third syllable. So we pronounce this as photographic. Now, we know already what syllable and what stress are. Another question arises. How do we determine which syllable gets the stress? There are two essential rules about word stress. First, one word, one stress. Second, the stress is always on a vowel. The following general rules may be of some use, but bear in mind that there will often be exceptions. Rule number 1. With verbs of two syllables, if the second syllable of the verb contains a long vowel or a diphthong, or if it ends with more than one consonant, the second syllable is stressed. Look at these examples. These are two-syllable verbs with long vowels and diphthongs, so we put the stress on the second syllable. Apply, attract, arrive, complete. Rule number 2. With verbs of two syllables, if the final syllable contains a short vowel and one or no final consonant, the first syllable is stressed. Let's analyze these examples. These are two-syllable verbs where the final syllable contains a short vowel, so the stress is given on the first syllable. Enter, borrow, open, profit. Just like my disclaimer a while ago, in every rule, there are always exceptions. Like these two-syllable verbs. The final syllables contain short vowels, but still, the stress is on the second syllable. Admit, permit. Rule number 3. There are some suffixes or word endings that usually carry stress. Words with these endings usually carry stress on the last syllable. Let me reiterate the word usually. That means not all the time, and you can encounter words that are in exception of this rule. Examples: word ending ain, entertain, remain, word ending e, refugee, foresee, word ending ear, mountaineer, overseer, word ending ease, Portuguese, Hainanese, word ending et, kitchenette, brunette, word ending esque, picturesque, grotesque. Let's move on to rule number 4. The main or primary stress usually falls on the syllable before these endings. Again, take note of the word usually. Examples: word ending ion, decision, application. Word ending ias or ias, contentious, courageous. Word ending et, simplicity, opacity. Word ending iv, extensive. Word ending graphy, photography. Word ending meter, thermometer. Word ending logi, biology. Let's move on to rule number 5. In compound words or words made up of two elements, there are again some general patterns. Please don't be confused. We have compound words with two elements and not two syllables. Let's have the first one. If the first part of the word is broadly speaking a noun, then the first element will normally carry more stress. Here are some examples of compound words with two elements, and the stress are on the first element of the words because they broadly speak nouns. Suitcase, teacup, seaweed, ballpen. The second one is, if the first part is broadly speaking an adjective, then the second element will carry more stress. Here are some examples of compound words with two elements, and the stress are on the second element of the words because they broadly speak adjectives. Loudspeaker, goaltender, bad-tempered. See? We only got a few rules to remember. So again, don't stress on stress. Now that we have mastered word stress, it's time for Game of Tones. Another prosodic feature that plays a vital role in speaking is intonation. Intonation in phonetics is the melodic pattern of an utterance. Intonation is considered as music of a certain language, and it also carries the meaning of a particular phrase or sentence. We have two main intonation patterns. One is rising intonation, and the other one is the falling intonation. Let's get to know first the rising intonation. Rising intonation means the pitch of the voice rises over time. But when do we use rising intonation? First is when we ask questions answerable by yes or no. Here are some examples. Did she pass? Is it late? Will you come again? Another is when asking questions showing warm personal interest. So that means when we are asking someone dear to us. For instance, Mommy, when are you coming again? Have you taken anything since you came? Another is when we are enumerating, like 1, 2, and 3. They ate, drank, and danced. We also observe rising intonation when we are greeting someone like, Good morning, sir. Hi. When we speak of uncertain situations, we also use rising intonation. For example, I expect him on Sunday. He may be in school now. We also use rising intonation when we couldn't finish what we are saying. For instance, when you finish, since it's raining, there we have it for the rising intonation. It's time to explore more on falling intonation. Falling intonation means the pitch of the voice falls over time. Now, if we have a number of instances to remember when using rising intonation, we only have to remember 3 for falling intonation. First, when giving commands like stand up, give the letter to your father. The second one is for giving statements. The teacher is coming. I'll see the teacher for some explanation. The third one is for questions that demand explanation. Why did you submit this homework late? When will you finish the assignment? And that's it for falling intonation. Yes, it can be very confusing at times, but if you are in doubt, always remember our golden rule. Find the last content word, then stress and put emphasis there. The key word in the rule is content word. So let's quickly review what these words are. Content words are noun, adjective, adverb, and verb. Function words, on the other hand, are pronoun, interjection, preposition, and conjunction. Let's take a look at an example. My mother went home to her hometown in Pilar. Pilar is a noun, and it is the last content word in this sentence, so we put the stress and emphasis to this word. My mother went home to her hometown in Pilar. The last feature we are going to discuss today is juncture. Yes, I know. The last 2 features were really challenging. But please be reminded of our last official hashtag, be positive. Let's begin with knowing what juncture is. In linguistics, it is the manner of moving or transition or mode of relationship between two consecutive sounds. It comes from a Latin word which means to join. Basically, juncture interposes a temporary stoppage in the flow of speech. Let's look, for instance, these two examples. These two phrases will sound the same without proper juncture, and we will not be able to recognize which is which. Peace talks versus peace stalks. There are several kinds of juncture, but the most widely used typology of which is the plus juncture, also known as open juncture. It is the juncture that occurs at word boundaries. In phonetic transcription, open juncture is transcribed as plus, hence the name plus juncture. Here are some phrases with plus juncture in between. A name and an aim. That's tough and that's tough. Fork handles and for candles. There are a few principles of juncture that we have to remember. First, two adjoining vowels are usually separated by plus. For example, an opera of. A plus juncture is placed between the adjoining vowels a from the opera and o from of. The second example is the idea amuses. A plus juncture is placed between the adjoining vowels e from the word the and I from idea. Another plus juncture is placed between the vowels a from idea and a from amuses. The second principle is this. A vowel with weak stress followed by a consonant is often in close transition with the consonant and there is no plus. Here are some examples of words and phrases containing vowels with weak stress followed by consonants. Above, a bag, the best. In these cases, there are no plus junctures. Aside from these principles, we also have three symbols of juncture. The first one is single bar, or being a level pitch before a break. Here are two example sentences of two thought group but have the same pitch level. We visited our students who are sick. One of the students who is absent is sick. The next symbol is double bar, or being an upturn in pitch and a break. Let's analyze this example. Marilu Roquero, a shop owner, told GMA News that sales have jumped almost tenfold when the enhanced community quarantine transitioned to a modified version that eased some restrictions. This is a positive with upturn of pitch and a break after Marilu Roquero and shop owner. We also use double bar to indicate a pause before and after non-restrictive clause. Let's take a look at this example. Mary Grace, who is a COVID-19 patient survivor, is Mr. Jose's daughter. Who is a COVID patient survivor is a non-restrictive clause, so we put double bar before and after it. The third symbol is double cross juncture, and we use this for a downturn in pitch that usually comes at the end of an utterance and pause between clauses. Here is an example sentence. A vision without action is daydream. An action without vision is a nightmare. As you can see, a double cross juncture is placed at the end of an utterance after the independent clause and before the dependent clause. And there we have it. Let us have a quick look of the prosodic features we have discussed today. First, we have the word stress, which is a relative emphasis of prominence given to a certain syllable in a word or to a certain word in phrase or sentence. We have also learned about intonation or the melodic pattern of an utterance. And lastly, we learned about juncture, which is the mode of relationship between two consecutive sounds. It was indeed a very fruitful class, but I know with your inquisitive minds, you still have lots of questions. Though I would like to answer them all, our time permits only a few. You will be given 1 minute to type in your questions in the comment box below, and don't forget to use any of our hashtags before you post. Don't stress on stress, game of tones, and be positive. Your 1 minute starts now. And your time is up. Let us read the first question from our virtual learner from Paso de Blas National High School with the hashtag Don't Stress on Stress. Is it possible for a long word to have more than one stress? One of our general rules is that one word, one stress. In a very long word, you can have a secondary stress, but it is always a much smaller stress. There is always one primary stress in one word. I hope you were enlightened with my short but direct to the point answer. Let us now have our second question from our virtual learner from Malanday National High School with the hashtag Don't Stress on Stress, game of tones, and be positive. Is there an easier way to master the prosodic features aside from memorizing all the rules? That is a very good question. The best way is to be familiar with words. Enhance your vocabulary. Online dictionaries also provide audio tutorial on how to pronounce the words. Watching English movies, videos, and talk shows and listening to audiobooks can also help. Well, if you are really having a hard time, always remember that if everything was easy, you will never know if something was worth it, right? And that answers it. It's time for our last question coming from our virtual learner from Lingunan National High School with the hashtag Don't Stress on Stress, game of tones, and be positive. How can I improve my pronunciation in English if I have a Waray or Bisaya accent? Whoa, this is really a very difficult question, huh? Though in some cases it has become possible to reduce the regional accent when speaking English, it really takes a lot of training, effort, and time to do so. So you can start by applying small easy steps for now. First, learn and practice the sounds and pronunciation of each letter in English alphabet. Once you have mastered these, it's time for you to learn the pronunciation of words through the different prosodic features we have learned today. Thank you so much for actively participating in our question and answer portion. I am very confident that you will be able to complete the tasks in your learning packets. Let me give you a quick walkthrough on how you will accomplish your tasks. If you have your learning modules handy, please open on page 9. For task 1, you will identify the stressed syllables of the words. You just have to write the stressed syllable in all capital letters and use a different color of ink so you can distinguish the stressed syllable. If you are not familiar with the word, you can use online dictionary and listen to the audio tutorial of the correct pronunciation. The next task is about intonation. You are going to place an intonation pattern on each sentence. Be sure to recall the rules that we have discussed today. Your third task is about juncture. You are going to place juncture symbol or plus juncture on the following phrases or statements on your learning module where appropriate. There is box provided on page 10 for you to write your answers. On page 10, you can also find the evaluation card about intonation. In this task, you are going to place intonation patterns in the entire news article. Make sure you read it carefully before you answer. For more information and other queries, your class discussion English language teachers will be more than happy to assist you. It has truly been a pleasure to have you today in my virtual class. I hope you learned a lot and at the same time enjoyed our lesson. I would like to thank our technical assistant today for sharing his expertise in today's learning engagement. This has been Teacher Jamin, and stay tuned for another episode of Virtual English Class, only here at Valenzuela Live, where distance is never a hindrance in learning. Stay home, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of the day. Bye!